Hi, everybody. My guest this week is Theresa Evans. She's an author. She wrote a book called Choosing to Die about her time with her mother, who had chosen to use a program in Canada called Medical Assistance in Dying. Now, I know that not everybody's from Canada, but there are 12 or 13 states that currently have some form or another of what I'm going to call assisted suicide. I'm sure that's not the PC term. That's the only one I know, though. And the reason I wanted to have the conversation is just to have the conversation, to see what she thought. She was for it, obviously. She honored her mother's wishes to choose to die on her own terms when she wanted, due to some problems with her health that were serious enough that she got approved. Anyway, if you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it. You can write to me at Gregory@rebelliouswellnesslifestyle.com, or on the YouTube channel. You can leave a comment down there. Also on the blog page of the website. Love to hear from you on this topic. Be well till next time. Welcome to the Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Greg Cox. I'm your host. Each week, I'll bring you expert interviews or rants or recommendations to help you live fully so that you can age better. Fake news about aging? Sorry, not here. Doom and gloom about what happens at our age? Girlfriend, please. How about proven health information that lives outside the mainstream media but is always science-based? You know all about getting steps and eating kale. Time to talk about genetics, wearables, hacks, and hormones, to name just a few of my favorite subjects. And my podcast wouldn't be complete without including what's possible beyond the five senses. If you're confused by all the conflicting information on what it takes to age in good health, join me each week for myth-busting, fact-finding, and a healthy dose of good humor. As I always say, aging happens, but it doesn't have to ruin your life. Welcome back, everybody. This is Greg with the Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle Podcast. Today, my guest is Theresa Evans, and I have so many questions for Theresa, and even though we've been talking for 10 minutes, I still have about a million questions. Theresa wrote a book, and I don't do a lot of author interviews, but there are certain things that jump out at me, and Theresa's book is about helping her mother cross over, medically assisted, help me out.
Medical assistance in dying.
Medical assistance in dying. A topic that has wildly divergent opinions about whether it should be even a conversation. I think it should be a conversation, and I personally think it should be a choice for more people, that if their body is finished, they're in pain, they're mentally incapable of feeling like they have any agency in their lives, that should be an option for them. That's just me. I know I'll hear from you if that doesn't agree with you, but that's okay too. So Theresa, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Tell us the title of your book, please, before we get started.
Thank you for having me. The title of the book is Choosing to Die, a daughter's story of supporting her mother's end of life through assisted death. So I've got this.
There we go. Beautiful cover.
Yes.
So I want to start with, you are Canadian, you live in the States, but this happened in Canada. And there are, I think you said 12 or 14 states here in the US that allow medical
13
assistance.
states and Washington, D.C., and then
Okay.
12 states who have some legislation moving forward, something on the agenda.
And you have siblings. You mentioned
Two
your
sisters.
sisters.
Yeah.
Who, so your mom probably brought it up. This is what I want to do. And did all three of you get the news the same day, or did she go to you first and then you had to tell the sisters, or how did that work? Because I know a family decision-making process can be difficult.
I'm known as the death sister in our
Great.
family.
Great.
I think it's because of my background as a critical care nurse.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been around a lot of people. I've seen a lot of really bad deaths. I've seen good death and I've seen bad death. And I had watched my mother decline. It's funny, at the time I was working internationally, so I was gone sometimes for 2 or 3 months at a time, Australia and India, all over the world
Wow.
teaching. And I called my mother almost daily because I knew. And she loved two things, gardening and watercolor painting. She was a wonderful artist. And she, it was like, it felt like a solid year of just no joy. Every day she was struggling, chronic pain issues. She had COPD. She couldn't breathe well. She couldn't get out and garden. Her stomach wasn't working right. It was just everything. And I said to her one day, I said, Mom, I said, I'm not trying to off you by any means. But I said, you do live in a country where you have a choice. And that's how it got brought up.
Okay.
And I said, you don't have to suffer. And I said, I am not, again, I am not saying you should do this. I'm just reminding you that along with all the other medical choices you've got, this is a choice. And whatever you decide, I will support you 100%. And
So
that's
now you didn't transition into being like a death doula as a profession or anything, have you?
no, no,
Okay.
no,
The
no.
death sister, I thought maybe you were going to capitalize on that.
No, I was just always the one that was willing to talk about what do
Mm.
you want us to do, Mom? Do you want to be put on a ventilator? People don't like to have these conversations. I think they almost think that the person is going to die soon, or like we're already putting her in the grave and having
Yeah.
this conversation, which is not true at all. And one thing that I have read a lot and about people that have gone through MAID with others is that once, and I saw this with my mother too, once you know you have an option, you stop worrying about suffering at the end of
Mm.
your life and that suffering growing and growing. And instead, you focus on living on that
Mm.
time you have left, however
Hmm.
long that is.
Yeah, that is an interesting point that I hadn't thought of. And I'm wondering, so once your mom, she started to do research on it, or and then she
Yep.
just said, "Wow, this sounds like a really great idea. Sign
Yep.
me up."
I don't think she said this sounds like a really great idea.
You know what I mean, though? She
Yes,
must have
no,
just gone into this headspace of maybe this will give me
yeah.
options, like you said, an option.
Yeah, I have in the very beginning of the book, it was this, I found this after Mom had died, and it was a note. Choices in life. It's in her handwriting in the front of the book here.
Aw,
Choices in life. Having children, stop having children. Getting married, getting divorced. Many life choices, big and small. Choosing to die, which is where the title came from. Protect my life insurance. Clear your soul. Clear my conscience.
interesting.
Yeah. She just started checking into the process and she was evaluated by two independent physicians and they both felt like she was completely appropriate for this, for medical assistance in dying, should she choose that.
Now, is there a physician present in that moment? They have to
Yes.
administer the medicine, right?
Yes, because in Canada,
Right.
in Canada, you can have an IV put in and receive the
Okay.
medication intravenously, which, excuse me, I think is really the most humane way to do
Yeah,
it. It's
sounds
not
like it.
legal like that in the United States
It's
anymore.
not, huh?
Oh, no,
Oh,
no,
wow.
no. In the
So you
United
get just
States,
literally an injection like you would with an animal.
animal, it was just like that. In the United States, you have to self-administer, and there's a lot of issues with
Oh, you
self-administering.
have to
You
self-administer.
have to drink it.
Oh.
And you can have a doctor there or not, it doesn't matter. And in Canada, you can also self-administer if you choose, but I think it's 99% of the people choose to have an IV and put in. So if you have a disease like ALS, you will reach a point eventually where you don't have the ability to self-administer. And
Mhm.
so think about that. Is somebody choosing to go sooner than they might because they want to make sure they can still drink the potion?
Interesting.
It's complicated.
It sure is. Now, did
Yeah.
you get outside of your immediate familial circle, friends, extended family, did people understand what she wanted to do? Was there pushback?
Mom didn't want anybody to know at
Oh,
first other
okay.
than us because, and it wasn't that she had any qualms about it. As a matter of fact, my mother was a raging Catholic,
Oh,
and
wow.
this is
Okay.
not condoned by the
No, it
Catholic
doesn't sound
Church
like it.
at all. And I had gotten there I'd been there a week, and she said, "Oh, she had a call scheduled with Sister Mary Catherine to talk about MAID." And I said, "Why are you doing that? Why would you call a nun?" I said, "Of course she's not going to support you, Mom." And I said, "It's just like more stress for you to have to." And she said, "If she can convince me, that if she can talk me out of MAID, then I shouldn't be doing it." And I was in that moment, I was just like, "Whoa, you go, girl."
Yeah, really.
But she didn't have the energy to have to explain it to everybody, knowing that there was going to be a lot of people who wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even going to tell the grandchildren, but one grandchild found out. And then I said, you got to tell the grandchildren,
Hmm.
the ones that were old enough to
Yeah,
understand.
of course.
So there was only my one grandson who, my brother's son, and my brother had died at the age of 50. He was an addict and
Oh,
he had a painful life, and mom just felt like he just couldn't handle it. He knows now, of course. We're having this conversation, but
yeah.
at the time.
Uh-huh.
So we kept it close. People knew that mom was sick, so it
Hmm.
wasn't going to be shocking that she died. And she had a couple of very close friends that, of course, she called and they knew what was going on. But other than that, it was just us and the kids.
I love that you had a celebration for her. She did this, what, on her 80th birthday, did you say?
Yeah, she said to me, once she decided she was going to do it, this was, I think, in May. And she said, when should I do it? And I don't know, Mom. I said, I have no idea. I said, why don't you do it on your birthday? I said, why don't you go out on the same day you came in?
Uh, I
And
love these
then
frank conversations about it.
this is how nurses talk.
Okay.
This is how nurses talk. And I forget. So sometimes when I'm talking to people and talking like this, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Very straight to the point.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, so that gave us 3 months, basically. It was during COVID. It was 2020, and which was great. It was bad. It was horrible for me because I basically had lost my business as a subcontractor because
Mm,
I
right, you
traveled
couldn't
all over
travel. Yeah.
and I couldn't travel. And I remember being concerned, like thinking, I just said to my sister, what am I going to do if I'm teaching, if I'm in, say, Melbourne and I'm teaching and people have paid thousands of dollars for this course and mom dies? Mom's going to be dead. I just don't do, say to you, don't call me. I don't know how I was thinking I could tell her not to call me, but I was
Hmm.
trying to weigh my responsibilities. But anyway, so I got there in July and so I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then we had August, September, October, and November 15th was her 80th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And did you say you had a cake? I think you told
we
me.
did. My sister got up. We all love mom's shortbread. And so my sister got up and decided she was going to make shortbread. And she had some trouble. I'm not going to tell you because you got to read the book, but it's a
Okay.
pretty funny story about the cake.
Okay. Okay. Did she blow out candles?
She did.
Oh, with COPD, she could still blow out candles?
She could.
Okay.
Just one.
All right.
As a
Well,
matter of fact, even at that point, I'm like, because all through the book, again, I don't want to give too much away, but all through the book, I'm secretly wishing she would just die.
I'll bet.
Like I write at one point, I'm like, mom was out in the garden with me and I thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be wondrous if she's just killed over and died right now in the garden? I formulated a plan. I'm not going to call 911. I'm just going to hold her. But then I'm thinking, what if she's not all the way dead? Then what do I do? See, this is the dilemma.
What if
This is
she's not
the
all the way
dilemma
dead?
of
Sounds
modern
like about a
medicine.
7-year-old would say that.
Yeah, exactly. There were moments where I was brought to that.
Yeah, yeah, I'll bet.
Your mother is your mother, no matter how old she is and how old you are.
And you mentioned when we were chatting before we got recording about you didn't have a great relationship with your mother for many years.
Not for a long time. It was pretty spicy when I was a teenager. Yeah. And I say spicy enough that I moved to a different country to get as far away as I could.
At
And it was,
14,
I didn't leave the
okay, you didn't leave
Canada
this
till I was
Canada.
17.
Okay, but still, that's young to
It
forge
was
out on
young.
your
Yeah,
own.
it was young. Yeah. I got arrested for hitchhiking at one point in Iowa, and they're like, we're going to call your parents. And I'm like, they aren't really going to do anything. But
You can call them. Here's the
yeah.
number.
But I was 19 when I had my daughter, my lovely daughter Stephanie, and that was the thing that brought us back together.
Oh, okay.
And so over the years, over the 40 plus years, Stephanie will be 47 this year. Mom has been gone for 5 years now. We healed through Stephanie. And the longer you live, the more you realize that things that seem so important at one point. They're just not that important,
Exactly. Especially
right?
when you're facing the runway is shorter in that direction than the one you just landed on,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think my mother had a complicated childhood. She was raised in a bunch of different foster homes. None of them were nurturing. She married my dad when they were 17. She's got a big story, and I tell it in the book. And because of that, I'm amazed that she could show up and be the mother. When I think of her, I said to my husband, I said, he read this book, and I said, this must sound like a fiction book to you because it's just such a love story.
Yeah.
But all that remains for me
Mm.
is this love story with my mother. I
And that's
don't,
a choice, and that's a really courageous choice.
yeah, she did apologize for throwing me out of the house when I was 14 when we were together at the end. I didn't need it. She did it on her own. She was like, "How could I have done that? What was I thinking?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. What were you thinking?"
Doesn't matter now.
She was doing she was living the way she had been raised, was
Mm.
doing what she knew. That's all.
It's interesting that you had that your mom apologized when my stepfather, who was, I'm going to just say difficult at best. And then there was some things as I was growing up. There was an incident with my paternal grandfather, who I was very close to, that my stepfather had a hand in. So I just stopped talking to him. And I was like, I just can't. It doesn't matter. And my brother called one day. I was living in California. My brother called and said, Martin is dying. I said, oh, he wants to speak to you. Really? What do I want to speak to him about? He apologized. And as a person who had a alcohol abuse situation, I've gotten to the places in adult people are doing the best they can. And I didn't know I needed that apology because you said you didn't need the apology. I didn't think I needed anything from Martin, but hearing it from him he had cancer of the esophagus and he could barely speak, but he said, I just wanted you to know. And I was like, that really did heal some part of me.
It's meaningful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, do you see yourself as a person who might choose to have an end of life like your mom?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not planning that now.
I didn't mean to intimate you should.
If the situation was such that that I had no quality of life and that I was suffering, why not? We have the means to have a peaceful death. And I know we can do this with VSED, which is voluntary stopping of eating and drinking. Basically, anybody can do that in the
Isn't that what
United
they do in
States.
hospice?
Yeah.
A patient will just stop eating and drinking and they ask not to be fed.
Or palliative care. I don't understand. It's usually a religious issue for those who I have found are completely. I did have somebody say to me once, she said, that's a sin against God. And I
Would
said,
not nourish.
to, to have MAID.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
I guess.
I said, can you explain that to me? I just really wanted to understand. And she said, it's God's choice of when we get to live or die. And I said, then we really shouldn't be taking antibiotics. We shouldn't be having open heart surgery. We shouldn't be having, what's the difference? We've created a medical system that I believe extends beyond our ability to ethically manage it. There's all kinds of interventions to keep us alive. And think about it. This is going on. You can be 90 years old and brought into the hospital and be put in a surgery suite, have a broken hip. What are you going to do? This is the issue. What are you going to do? And I'm not saying I don't want to get a bunch of emails saying you
You
kill
will.
everybody with a broken hip. But I'm just saying, what I'm asking for, Greg, is that we just think about it. That's the starting point. Just think about it.
My aunt lives in Mexico by herself since her husband died about 7 years ago, and a beautiful little community. She's happy there. We offered to move her back to the States. She said, "No, at this point, I have my friends, and no, fine." And she has at this point. She still drives, which scares the heck out of us, but drive she does now and again, and takes care of herself. And we have somebody look in on her and grocery shop. But she has said more than once, I would make use of a veterinarian in this country because they will do it if I could find one that wasn't Catholic. Because they do it. And it's just a conversation. It's not, oh, if only I could die.
Yeah.
She said, I'm at the point where I've done everything I want to do. I'm really not having that great a quality of life. It's not awful, and I feel bad. If she could find a way to do it, we would certainly facilitate that for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that I've already prepared my daughter for that. Again, I'm not saying that I'm going to do this, but I'm
Right.
telling you that it is in my realm of possibility. But even my own daughter, who has grown up with the death mother, right? The death daughter who talks about death, is, if I try to talk to her about, I'm like, it's my husband's 75. He's got some health issues. I'm 66. I'm very healthy. But I said we went and had all our advance directives done and had her made DPOA for healthcare and finances. And I said, I want to have a meeting. I want to go through all this paperwork with you. And she said, oh, we'll do it. We don't need to do it right now, though, Mom.
Oh,
Yeah, we
interesting.
need to do it now.
It's often the parents that don't want to do it now, and the young people who are like, come on, Mom, we need to talk about this.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah.
But you have the paperwork in order. So if she doesn't come
It's
to the
in
table
order.
now, she'll have to at some
Yeah.
point.
And sometimes it's good to not have a family. If you have a family member that can't, they just literally emotionally
Yeah,
cannot follow through on your wishes, then it's better just to have somebody else do.
that would make sense. Yeah.
There's
What do you want to
always,
leave us with about this conversation there, Theresa?
first of all, read, because
Yes, get the
it's
book.
an interesting story. I'll show you the title again. It's got so many facets to it. It talks about the mother-daughter relationship. My mother was a master gardener, so I worked in her garden the entire time, putting it to rest, and I just realized that everything I was seeing in the garden was what we were experiencing with Mom. And botany just became a giant metaphor for everything that we were living. So what I want to leave people with mostly is have these conversations. Have these conversations while you're still able to have them with the people that you care about and that you love. And you're not killing them earlier by having these conversations in advance. Be open-minded. And even if you can't, my mother happened to choose MAID, but the book is more about that. It's anticipatory grief. It's very strange to know that your mother's going to die on November 15th at 10 a.m. and have 3.5 months of carrying. But that's where, when you and I were talking earlier, I think the thing I want people to know too is that you can show up. You can do hard things. You can do things that you didn't think you could do. And once you've done them, my entire life has been different because I know I can do them now. And I
Interesting.
can do them without pushing and without my own agenda. I can do them by just showing up with as much love and compassion as I can muster.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us your insights, some interesting information from your book. And I would suggest everybody, your website is the title of your book, is it not?
Choosing to Die. Yeah.
Choosing to Die.
choosingtodie.com. Yeah.
So you can go over there and there are links to buy the book. And I'm just grateful to have found you because I do think this is a really important conversation, at least to bring to this audience who might then have a conversation with somebody who didn't listen, just as a conversation. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? Would you ever do that? I'm not saying anybody should choose it. I'm not making prognostications or determinations for anybody. Just saying that it's out there and some parent may come up one day and go, hey, you know what? Thinking about this. How would you react to that? Can you show up and do hard things without judgment?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much, Greg, for letting me. I know it's a hard topic. I even wondered, I thought, is any podcasters really going to want to talk about this? But the thing is, it's happening. It's happening. And you know what? People are killing themselves on their own if they can't get it legally. So let's make it legal and let the people that need to make this choice have this choice. And those that don't choose it is fine, whatever.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you again, Theresa Evans. And everybody, thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. Be well till then. Well, that wraps up another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. I hope you're leaving with at least one new idea to help you live more fully and age better. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I'd love it if you would take a moment to leave a review. It helps other rebellious spirits find our community. See you next week, peeps.